Hey Dad, so happy Father's Day. Sue had the great idea to do the same thing that we did for Mom for you. So she said, wouldn't it be great if we can talk about 8 things you taught us as kids and growing up, kind of like we did for Mom. And at first I thought, oh man, I'm gonna have to really put some thought. And then, not that it was really super difficult, but then I started doing it. I said, problem is I can't limit it to 8. It just keeps going. There's all kinds of things. And so um, I thought maybe it would bless you by knowing the things that I definitely recognize as things almost every day that uh, you that I learned, and some of these things you taught all of us. Some of them were more specifically to me. Maybe you'll get a kick out of some of these things, but uh, they are definitely life skills as well as very tangible things that almost every day, even when I'm on a job and in between. So anyway, I'm just going to run through them, try to make it real quick. And again, hopefully you may have not even remembered a lot of these things, and they're not in any order, but I'm just going to flip through them as I thought of them. One of them was being industrious. You taught us how to be industrious, and I wouldn't really think about that, but the more I do think about it, I take that for granted. And these were not even things you specifically, I think, even thought to yourself to teach, even though some were. Um, a lot of it was just the way that you went about things. And so being industrious, being creative, being innovative, um, just seeing how you did things with the electrical panel in the garage using the relays, and also your willingness to try new things, always willing to do something of excellence, something a step beyond, something further than anybody else seemed to go. Certainly in our neighborhood, and to us that was our world, is our neighborhood, right? And just seeing how you did everything, and then realizing, look back, there probably wasn't anybody within 10 square miles that did the same thing, but you made the best of our house. And so that taught a lot in terms of not even being resourceful and industrious, but willing to push it. If somebody says, hey, we have room for a 30-foot pool, you said, no, maybe we have room for the one with the figure eight. In fact, I don't think it was a 30-foot pool. What's the one that the Stindles had and the Mazers? Was that maybe a 20-footer, but we had a 30 or a 31-footer by putting the two circles together. Um, and the fact that you put a step up in the backyard. I mean, who would think to do that? Why bother with that? That taught a lot. And putting a pond in the backyard. Who the heck would put a pond in the backyard? The type of fence that you made. It was the type of fence that ranches had, and you said, "Hey, I want to put this in our yard." And it wasn't just a fence; it was ones with those big timbers that are on there instead of some cheesy chain link fence or even the round posts. You know, um, and that's just the way you did everything. And I always reference this, but the house, the cedar paneling, making the house, what was it, a foot and a half larger than everybody, or maybe even a couple feet, putting the large garage, the type of driveway in the backyard, everything that you did pushed it to say, what can I do with this, and how can I make it better, and what are the possibilities here? And you put money into those things. And that was a lesson that I think we all learned, I don't even think you were trying to teach it, even though maybe sometimes you were. The type of garage door you put on. I'm referencing all of these physical things, but that applies to life in general. So, putting a heater, for the pool, even though it never got connected, even getting it, and then wanting to put a deck, and even though I know Uncle Nick did that, and a hopper on the pool. So all of those things were huge, and that taught a lot to this day. So that was just point number one, being industrious and also creative. Um, you weren't and again, as I going through these things, these are things I learned, but it's the way you were. So they kind of are one and the same, even though sometimes I know you did things specifically to teach. So, not being afraid to try new things. It seems that you didn't have a problem just trying new stuff, even though it might not have been 100% guaranteed. And I can't even think of anything to mind, but that comes up. Um, I covered a lot of these already in that first one. Excellence. Some say perfectionists, and we were big on saying you were perfectionists about everything, and it drove us freaking crazy. And I know you don't like that word, freaking mom, but I'm sorry. Um, so I'll just say excellence. And I can't count the times on jobs, and I have all of these great responses that people have put online on this Yelp. Maybe they'll tell you what that is. I think online, where people are putting time and time and time again great reports of the work that I do, and I always hear them say, he's really a perfectionist. He's really, he goes a cut above. He goes way beyond, and that's all stuff that you taught. And those things bring me jobs. They bring me work, and I don't have to wrestle with people. They call a lot of times, and they said, "Oh, you got great reviews on Yelp. When can you make it?" So that's all stuff you taught. So the value of inventiveness and invention. I know you remember. I always remember when you talked about that friend of yours that went and he made a certain kind of antenna, and he built a whole company based upon that. That instilled me in a young age about the value of invention and being inventive and creative. And I can probably think of other things, but you were always supportive of the things that I know we did. I can't speak so much for Georgine because I didn't have my eyes on a lot of things that she was doing, but I knew by extension you were always supportive of the willingness to step out and do things. So inventiveness was another thing that I learned to this day. You taught me to play the trumpet, even though I took lessons later on. Actually, I realized you actually taught me how to play trumpet. I think you taught Rob too. And then we took it from there. And you guys were always great at being willing to invest, not only in all of the house and your stuff, but in us. So you taught us the value of investing, not in cheap, cheesy things that wear out and you throw away, but you put a value on investment into stuff. I mean, not stuff, but experiences, like the vacations, like investing when we went to Italy. And that taught us about the value of investment in things that matter, not to mention school. Holy cow. So that was a big lesson. And maybe I've invested too much over my life. That's all I've done is stepped out and taken money and invested in one thing after another. But I don't want to beat myself up too bad, because I guess looking back, I'm glad that I did all of it. And I think overall net, that's a good thing. And some of those things, by extension, you got to experience as well. You taught me how to fix my own car. Not that I can fix a 2021 version of anything right now with all the computer stuff, but you showed that it's possible. And if you don't know how to do it, learn how to do it. And now I just replaced the light in my dashboard, and that's about a $450 if you took it to the shop to do. And pulled it up, found a video on YouTube, and it was the check engine light. Was able to fix that, and it wasn't that bad at all. But I wouldn't have even stepped out and done that. And I don't do these things if I have jobs and I have work, because I've also learned on my own. Sometimes it just makes more sense to pay somebody to do it, which I have the ability to do. But if I don't have jobs, I'll fix it myself, and that's stuff that I learned from you. And if you don't know how to do it, you can learn. Remember, we used to have to get the Chilton's manual for the cars if you had to learn. Now you just go online, which is great. This is a dumb thing, but you taught me how to sweep up, how to move I just did this the other night, and I was thinking about that's why it came to mind. You know how you use the whisk broom and you got to move the dustpan. That's how you taught me. And believe it or not, people don't know how to do that. It's really ridiculous. But I take for granted a lot of these basic things that I learned working with you, and you always put a premium on watching you and being there, and all those things are priceless. And now as we look at Aaron, and he didn't get a lot of that, and I feel bad about that, because I know he misses it and he wished he got it, but we got it. And so thanks for that. And I know that you were doing that intentionally, because you wanted to teach us how to do those things. Electricity, how electricity, basics. Basics about electricity. If I had to rewire this house, I know I could do it. Um, I learned how to do things from electricity to plumbing to carpentry to even bricklaying, masonry, cement, all of that stuff. You took the time to teach, whereas other dads would probably say, "Yeah, go do what you want to do. I got to get this fixed or whatever." But you wanted us to watch. Rob was playing baseball. He was getting other skills, and it doesn't mean those things were any worse. And everybody has a purpose. But I guess I'm thankful that I did learn those things. I just have to be careful because I realize you don't get rich doing those things. But the same skills apply whether now I'm working on the internet, building web pages, or anything. It carries through. So you're taught to think outside the box. We learned that from you. You didn't just do it because everybody else did it. And you always says, well, maybe I could do it this way. Maybe I could do it that way. And you weren't afraid to do that. And we just took that for granted. That's the way. That's just the way you be. That's just the way you are. But other people are fearful. I've as realized in looking at life and people, they're afraid to try new things. They're very conservative. They just don't want to take chances. And I think it's a good thing. Again, maybe I did a little too much, but I'm going to say that's in the positive column overall. So you don't just do things against status quo because everybody else is doing it that way. In fact, that's the last thing. In fact, if everybody else was doing it, that's one reason you didn't want to do it. I think there's value in that. And I think that's a spiritual principle as well, which of course I've learned later on. And like they say, if everybody else was jumping off a cliff or something like that, would you do it too just because they were doing it? And that's a very deep spiritual principle. Unfortunately, many people learned how to blend. They learned how to fit in. They didn't want to stick out. They didn't want to be the one that looked like the oddball. Well, you taught us basically don't be afraid to be the oddball. Again, maybe too willing to be the oddball. But, the Bible says that if the world loves you, basically, you want to seek God's approval, not the world's approval. And that was a principle you taught, not talking about God, but I think it was good learning to just not be intimidated if everybody else doesn't acknowledge you. Because a lot of times they're the blind leading the blind anyway. So, thanks for that. And then you went totally the other way too, with fish, building a pond in the backyard. And the fact that you put a value in being interested in nature and animals and fish and going to Hinckley. Yeah, we went fishing. But I think the fact that you liked all of that stuff and water, and to this day I love our pool in the backyard, even though we don't even go in it a lot. I'm looking forward to building one of those fancy pools. That comes from growing up. We built a little pond as a kid. Now I'm going to build a whole backyard. And this will happen, and you will see it. You taught that variety is good. Again, some people are afraid of variety, too much variety. Variety is the spice of life, they say. And so, again, you taught us that growing up. You were not ever afraid to try different things, whether it's different wines, beers, foods, going to restaurants, whatever we did, traveling. You liked variety in the books and again, some people would rather keep everything nice and set and just the way it always has been. And I think that's a good thing, and thanks for that. Yeah, I covered a lot there. You gave us an appreciation for the world, a worldwide view of things, not just on our street, not just on our block or even our city. And we've talked about this before. I know Mom's not real thrilled about that, and that's, of course, why we ended up traveling, but I think it's a good thing, and you taught us that. Also, I realized you taught me how to read a map. That was you. Again, some people don't know how to read a map. That's kind of hard to believe, but I took it for granted. We all took it for granted, I think, a lot of things that we learned, so thanks for that. Even though you didn't use the weights, that's where I picked up the weights, was because you held onto those down underneath the step downstairs. And you taught me a few things in the early stages about it. And even though I don't think you used weights really growing up, you did exercise. I always remember that picture that you had in the dresser. I think you were on the beach doing a biceps pose or something like that. And then once we were in Florida, and there was some guy that you thought or you had heard was a ex Mr. America or something like that at the pool. And she put a value on physical fitness and even your own running and everything you did, and even up until when you were walking at the gym, and even till today. I appreciate that. You put a value on exercise and taught that it's good without being overbearing and saying, oh, you have to do this. But again, we just learned it by osmosis. Learned that from you. A lot of kids, they have to go to the internet right now. I guess fortunately they have it, but they didn't learn these or they didn't have a dad. So you taught the value of exercise and being fit and taking care of your body. I covered a lot of things already here. Your ability, your willingness to invest, and we can go through all of that. But it's a testimony because you did that while you're able to have the life that you have right now, even as well. And I know you've been encouraging me to do it, and I take all that to heart. I know that there's so many different levels that you could invest at, and I've done it on as many levels as I could. By the way, you'll be the first to know this. This house that I'm sitting in right now, I just looked at Zillow the other day, 2 nights ago. Would you believe it just cracked the value of over $1 million? Can you believe that? I can't believe it. Maybe I'll show you before I'm done because I took a screenshot of it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Maybe we talk more about that later. Almost coming to the end here. Yeah, I already covered a lot of stuff. Going back to the willingness to try new things when we wanted to do it. And I even can't believe that you guys used to let me do the rockets downstairs and burn those wicks, and I'd come upstairs and a puff of smoke would come out of the basement. That was insane. I can't even imagine you let me do that. I used to burn wicks over and over and over and over to test all the different powders that I made. But you were willing to let me try that. I think you wanted to, again, invest in our growth and development. You saw that was just another way I was doing it. Kind of quirky, kind of mom would prefer other things that I did, but whether it was that or the aquariums or building cannons or building rockets or or the gas planes, always letting us try things, experiment with things, and being willing to put money into it. I remember when I got braces and I said, geez, I can't play guitar. I can't play trumpet right now. I was thinking about guitar, and you said, well, you have something to the effect of, have you thought about getting one? I says, well, yeah, there's this music store. And I remember, I think it was that night or within one night, went to the music store, bought a guitar right then and there. I didn't have to beg you, that's a 12-string guitar, and I have it to this day. And so you taught us how you were willing, and taught us therefore the value, again, of investing in experiences, investing in growth, investing in things that embellished life on more levels other than quick, gratification or watching sports all day long. I know that there's a value in that for some people, but that was time that you spent doing things and teaching us. And again, some of it was conscious, some of it was official, but I think a lot of times it was just the way you are. And you are a teacher at heart, and I think you enjoyed that, and we got the benefit of that. So, last but not least, willingness to step off the normal path, so to speak. And that also kind of plays into being willing to try new things. And to getting the Beamer, and then even to be willing to even look at this stuff that I actually just yesterday did a job, and I'm finally going to be able to order this anti-aging stuff. Everything I learn about it is great. I can't wait to get you on it, get you starting to experience it. I keep hearing people calling in on the phone, on these conference calls that they do on the internet, talking about the benefits that they're having. people that were not even able to go up and down stairs are actually jogging now. I don't want to, I do want to build it up, but at the same time, I'd rather under promise and over deliver. So any improvement will be wonderful. And I'm very positive you're going to see that. I'm going to start taking it hopefully within a few weeks here. I'm going to get my order in when I get off of this. And, but again, that's because you taught us how to be that way, and it's going to come back to you, I believe, as well as the rest of us. And so that's why I've learned about UFOs. I learned about everything. And Rob and anybody else that's listening to this, I think you'll appreciate this. I was just on a job yesterday. Christian lady, I did a job for her 8-9 years ago. She looked me up and called me because of something else. She said, yeah, we talked a lot when you were here last time, and we were, of course, talking again. She goes to, of all things, a Calvary Chapel up here in East in Yorba Linda. And I said, so what is your, and this plays into all of this, Dad, I'm talking about here. I said, so what has your pastor been saying about current events? I was just kind of curious what's going on in the standard, a conservative type of a church, big church. She says, oh, he doesn't really get political and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I mean, just about things in general. She says, oh, well, he talked about UFOs the other day, last week. She said, and actually twice. And there's another church that's doing it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I was into that 20 years ago. What am I talking about? It's the mid 85, 90s. Holy cow. But that's because, again, what you were taught us, and my willingness to learn. If I had a question, if I was inquisitive, I wasn't thrown by whether somebody else thought it was good or bad or worth anybody's time, but I put myself in. As a result, I was 35 years ahead of things. And I sit here now with a great education on all of these things. I could say I went to Switzerland, I met this guy, blah, 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 blah. Now people are actually interested, whereas before they weren't. But because the pastor said it's okay, now they can get interested. That's fine. So all of that, because of how we were brought up and the things that you taught me, that I appreciate, and I know you taught us a lot of things, but I'm just speaking from my corner of the world there. And there was a lot of things that flowed over, I know, and I learned from watching, as you also were supportive of Rob and Georgine, and never doubted whenever we wanted to grow or step out, didn't even hesitate. And you hear these stories about kids, they go to their dad, they want to do this or that, and they got to fight tooth and nail to get them to invest in getting them a mitt, a baseball glove or something like that. And you never did that. It was just whatever it was. And I'm sure if there were table saws that were available back when I was growing up, you would have been willing to go buy one, like now you can do for $95 at Home Depot. Unbelievable, all of the things that they have now. But I had to go to Uncle Laura's, remember, to use the table saw. But you were always willing, whatever it was, a tool, an instrument, or experience, to teach the value of that, and I appreciate that. So, happy Father's Day. Love you. Hopefully all this makes sense. Maybe you got a good chuckle out of it. I'm looking to see if I can find this real quick, that screenshot that I told you about. Bear with me. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. Okay, screenshot. There it is. Yeah. Can you believe this? I'll try to put it up to the camera. And this was 4 days ago. I think the new one. Let me see if I can get that on there. That's weird. It's not showing. It's blinking in and out. That's because of the video. That's weird. Let's see if I can get that. That's weird. It's not showing. Maybe if I make the screen dimmer. Hold on. Hold on. Well, it shows up a little bit better. Darn. Okay, I'm going to get this to work. That's it right there. Or is it? Bear with me. I am going to get this thing to show up. It's right under, it's the third line down. It's the real faint one. There we go. I don't know if you can read that. Darn it. Okay, that's gonna work. That's funny. It's showing as it's showing as in reverse. That's why I couldn't read it. Maybe when we play it, it'll be proper. But there it is right there. It says it's a dollar sign, 1,722,000. Yeah, hopefully that'll be in. There it is. 1,700,000. I think those are 22s. Incredible. So, and that's even going to continue. I'm sure it's even gone up since then. So, thanks again. Happy Father's Day. We'll give you a call a little bit later. I wanted to have this video done first. Who's going to upload it, and you can hopefully watch it later. And we'll talk about some other stuff too. So, thanks for everything, Dad. Again, hope you got a good chuckle out of this, and appreciate that we appreciate, and I appreciate all the time you spent teaching me and us. Love you. Talk to you later. All for now. Bye.